Howdy, folks. This is the introduction video to the actual 3D technique fundamentals thing. And I just want to kind of go over a little bit of a philosophy, some framework ideas, things like that. Initially, there's the first idea of relativity, right? When we're spinning, when we talk about direction and timing and all this shit, it's like, well, this is going forward, right? Because I'm going, but now the poi, to me, it's going reverse, but to the audience, to you guys, the poi's never changed anything, same kind of like this. Now it's spinning to my left, to my right. So there's a lot of relativity. So we need to kind of come up with some metrics or some observations about the tendency of the poi and note them, something measurable or fixed. Because a lot of the stuff, especially with bends, like what plane's this in? Well, it's in a bunch of different planes and it moves through all the, it's all forward, reverse. So this pattern crosses a lot of different metrics. And since we have nothing fixed about it, it's really hard to kind of conceptualize initially. So a lot of what we'll be dealing with theory-wise is just shit that I've observed, and so I put an arbitrary name on a lot of this shit. If you like to name it different stuff, the tendency will be there, like for example, polarity, right? This side's going down, this side's going up. They're polar opposites, right? When you go straight across the orbit, there's an oppositeness that happens. Left, right, So why does that matter? Well, with an atom, if positive, as in towards you, negative, as in away from you, if I have my positive and positive, they'll mesh. And if I have my negative and negative, they'll mesh. But then they won't, they'll air wrap. So whether or not you want to call that positive and negative or meshing and clashing or whatever, as long as you understand the concept exists, that's the important thing, right? And then another thing about frameworks, more specifically than language, is with 3D, things are real weird, right? So I'm going to do the same thing from 3 different angles. I'm going to aim at you with the buzzsaw, and I'm going to bend it out 45 degrees to each side, bing, bing, like this, and then bring my hands together. This looks split oppish, right? Now I'm going to go 45 degrees to you, do the same thing. Now we have a circle with a line in edge view, right? That's a completely different appearance. And now I'm going to do the same thing perpendicular to you. Bing, bing. Now it looks oddly split same, right? So now we have that relativity thing again. It's like, it's even more confusing to describe it if we don't come up with some variables. So one of the things that I like, someone on Facebook years ago mentioned this, and I can't remember who it was. I'd love to give them credit, but they were talking about the shared axis. So when your poi are at perpendicular angles, there's an axis that's shared that goes right down the center, right? That's the shared axis. So we can use that as a fixed metric. That's a way we can start thinking about it. So timing, right? This is like split, and then it goes into an L. Is that L quarter? And then it's back into split. So it does this weird pulsing thing. How do we count timing there? Well, the fixed axis will always be the fixed axis. Even if I'm doing the same thing aimed down, up, rotated like this, rotated like this, the fixed axis is always the same. So we can use that metric to start thinking about the timing of the poi relative to each other. That doesn't change halfway through the orbit and then change again. It's like, so we'll just use that. That's an important thing, the fixed axis. And then, shared axis. It's a fixed metric. And then orientation is another idea. If you have an atom, let's say, I'm facing it in different ways, so now how about this? Same atom, all the mechanics are the same. The positive, negative thing still applies. Or what about this? Same atom. What about this? This one appears strangely different, but it's the same atom, right? So that's your orientation. That's what I call, how is the atom oriented and how is it oriented to you? So there's like a vertical atom where one plane's vertical, the other plane's vertical. There's the crosshair atom, which is vertical and a horizontal, and then the tilted atom, right? And then the polarity thing, we can start thinking in terms of quadrants, and there's a whole YouTube video on that. I'll just link somewhere. But relativity, the relativity of this, the idea of fixed metrics, and then the idea of flexibility in your framework. So if a move is really hard, thinking in split same like this, just change your mind and think about it like, oh, it's a split with an in swing, right? So you can think of it in a different way, and it might be easier to understand the move that way. So you have the freedom to do that. So that is one of the cool things about 3D spinning. I think that's, and then the last thing I want to kind of rant about is the way I'm going to do these following videos is I will present a drill, and then I will kind of talk, about some of the ins and outs or whatever, and you can drill during me talking and just kind of let me mamble in the background or whatever, or pause it, drill for a while and then come back, and my talking should explain the reason we're drilling things, and once we get a good foundation about crosshair atoms, then we'll make several videos that are individual moves that kind of fit into the crosshair atom framework. Then we'll move on to the next set of atoms, and then we'll ultimately get to toroids and brakes.